Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video, I'm bringing to you my short spoiler-free review of Veronika Decides to Die by Paulo Coelho. This I think is the fourth Paulo Coelho book that I'm reading and it was really nice and different from all the other books that I've read by him so far. It felt kind of surreal in its tone and the way in which the characters got their stories here was also very different compared to the other three books which I read by him because most of them just focus on one character alone for most parts and what is going on in their heads and their lives. But it was very different here even though it's a very short book. So without any further ado, let's get into the various sections of the review right away. Starting with the plot as usual. In this book, we follow our main character, Veronika, who's this 24-year-old woman living in Slovenia. Now, the thing about Veronika is that she's living a very normal, comfortable life, okay? She does not have anything extraordinary that is going on in her life, and she feels like this mundanity is just killing her soul from within. She's a librarian who has a perfectly decent job. She makes a decent amount of money. She's not suffering in the literal sense in any way, but there is this kind of mental torture or mental angst that she's continuously put in because she just suffers with the inevitability of existence and its mundaneness in every way possible. So what Veronika decides out of nowhere one day is that she wants to go forward and end her life all by herself. So she just goes forward and consumes some sleeping pills, and the main aim that she has right then is to overdose herself to death. Now this is a book which talks a lot about suicide and suicidal thoughts. So if that's a trigger for you, just go forward and keep that in mind very much because the author talks about the inevitability of human mortality a lot inside this book, and it is really well done by him too. It is also kind of depressing in its tone because we start the book with the main character trying to end her life, and that's the tone in which the story is going to go on for at least halfway through the story, after which some things change, but even then it's not completely happy. There are some sad stuff that are happening and revealed to us continuously, and we also get to see some things that are experienced by Veronika's parents after she takes this decision. But as a whole, I can say that towards the end, the plot just rounds up really well, and it shows us what's the point of this book towards the end, even though in the beginning of the book, the main character tries to end her own life. Now moving on to the characters. Apart from Veronika, we have three other characters who play very important roles inside Veronika's life, at least for the part of life in which we see her experiencing inside this book. And those three characters, if I'm not wrong, are Zetka, Marie and Edward. Of these, we get to see more about Marie as well as Edward's life after we see that of Veronika. I can say that all these three characters mostly get the most page count inside this book because we get to experience each and every one of their three stories very properly. But compared to Veronika, both Marie as well as Edward are quite old in their age, and the stories that they have are also very different from each other. Some characters inside this book have clinical depression, they have anxiety attacks, panic attacks. There's one character who is dealing with schizophrenia right now, and we see all these different kinds of mental illnesses which are shown here. And while the book was published way back in 98 is the year in which I was born, so the book is 27 years old now, these things were kind of taboo, and the author has gone forward and written all this and the experiences of the characters from his experience while he was in three different mental health institutions during 3 different years in his whole life. It shows us the dark side of the place as well as the kind of hope which brews because of the relationships that the people form in there. In that way, I can say that each and every one of these characters were really well done, and they all felt very much necessary to the story without trying to wedge their way in. Next, moving on to the writing. The writing here is just on point and just top-notch throughout, okay? When you see the story of any of the three characters being narrated to you, you just see the stark differences in their lives very well, and there is this kind of turning point which happens for each and every one of them internally, okay? It's not something like huge changes in their actual world outside in the world, like in their materialistic world, but something happens inside their mind, something happens for their soul, which just twists their life and, kind of makes them suppress some part of themselves within them, which in turn goes forward and affects them for the rest of their life. The way in which it was shown here by the author was brilliant. The writing that was necessary to show that without, making it problematic in any way was very necessary. There is also kind of triggers when it comes to ableist kind of writing here and there because the book was published way back in time, okay? So the kind of things which are politically right now were not even considered back then. So you have to keep that in mind while you're seeing the writing of the book. But I can say that as a whole, it was really well written, and while you're reading the stories of each and every one of these characters itself, it feels like you are there along with them experiencing their story. It's not like you're standing outside the page and just reading words, okay? It feels like you are with them and you are seeing what is happening to them and the point of shift in their lives each and every time it happens properly. Another important thing to keep in mind is that all this is done in a very simple way. So even if you're a beginner, you can definitely go forward and read the book. It will not affect your reading experience in any way. It is very easy to read. very simple in terms of language. The concepts are a bit advanced, but in terms of the reading level, it is very beginner friendly. Finally, talking about the pacing, initially for the first 2 to 3 chapters, the book felt very slow paced for me because we get to see the main character trying to end her life in the beginning of the book, okay? And for her to get from there to start and experience the stories of these people around her, it takes quite a bit of time, which is very normal, okay? And I can understand it now after having finished the book. But as you keep on reading the book and as you keep on consuming the stories of the other people inside the book, the pacing just gets very consistent. And at a point, I felt like I want to know more about the stories of these characters because they feel very real. They feel like real people and not just like, someone who I'm just reading off page. It was that good. So in terms of pacing, even though it's a bit slower towards the start, as you keep reading the story, it just gets better and better, and you'll just start craving for more from the stories of all of these characters and what happened in their lives. And as a whole, I can say that it was a really solid reading experience for me, and I went forward and rated it 4 out of 5 stars. So yes guys, that's it for my short spoiler-free review of Veronika Decides to Die by Paulo Coelho. I'm very glad that I read this book, and if you're someone who's having some kind of confusion of where to start with Paulo Coelho's books, instead of Alchemist, I'll suggest you to go forward and try this one of all the books that I've read by him so far, because it just feels even more beginner friendly. It's very short, so it will not take much of your time, and you'll get an idea of what kind of writing this author has and the kind of philosophies that he deals with in his books. If you did find this review useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.